Well, welcome everyone to Athens, and hope you enjoy the beautiful weather here. I feel like I'm in Southern California, and hope you enjoy the 4 days here. Let's put the slide up. Oh, do I have control? Great. I want to thank our sponsors for the event. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here. We couldn't do this. So I want to thank all of you. I won't name all the companies here, but you guys are providing us tremendous resources to pull off this conference every year. It's a lot of work, believe me. I think the whole team works about 4 months straight, so I'm not sure we need to keep spending that much time on it, but thank you very much. We're up to 122 members now. It's hard to believe. It says 120 here, but it's actually 122. And I want to thank the new members for joining. We actually have added 16 in the year since the last conference. If you know you're a new member this year, would you please stand up? Those of you that are actually here. Here's the group. I hope it adds up to. I hope it's. Oh, there's 16 up there. Looks like more, but thank you very much for joining. It's amazing how far we've come. One thing I want to remind you, just like Francois did, while we're here, and it's very simple. We have a sacred responsibility, and I mean a sacred responsibility to return our passengers and our crews home every day in better shape than when they left. In the past, obviously, we've failed at that responsibility many times, and our goal is to not fail any longer. And I actually believe we are succeeding at that goal in most cases. One thing Gretchen said to me about a year ago, gosh, I just don't know how do we know if we're successful? And I said, Gretchen, the problem with what we do, this business, we don't know how many lives we've already saved. We have no idea that by doing what we do and what we've done for the last 5 years, that we've actually saved lives. So we just don't know, and that's the unfortunate thing about the hard work we do here. But I know that we've saved lives, and I have to keep reminding the team that all the time because they get very frustrated when something goes wrong. 12 months ago, we were in Italy, and we've had a very challenging and tough year. This is a really tough industry that we're in now. We're going to have a lot of discussion about that during the day today and tomorrow, but it's really an environment. I don't know if that slide. I want to put this slide up here because I'm going to give you some hope. This slide was presented at the Howard Wheel Conference in New Orleans by John Hess of Hess. Everybody hears about the shale plays. Everybody talks about what's going on in West Texas. And really, if you go out there to Midland, Odessa, and see what's going on, you just can't believe it. It's like you've landed on a planet somewhere else. And when you look at well pads in people's backyards and drilling rigs everywhere, it is really the modern day gold rush. And I'm sure some of you in this room have seen that. Everybody talks about it, says that's the new frontier. But just take a look at some of the statistics here on this discovery or this project in Guyana, where Exxon has made several actually large discoveries. Guyana and off the east coast of South America. To get the equivalent production out of West Texas, if you look down kind of in the middle where it says 1,500 wells, to actually equal the production that they've reached, that they will reach in this project in Guyana. And if you look at the capital required in Guyana, it's $3.7 billion to find the same reserves. In West Texas, it's $12.8 billion. So I'm in the private equity world now, and a lot of the work we do, we invest in small companies that operate out in West Texas and all over the United States. So we see it, and we see the fact what's going on now is the investors are pulling back a little bit from investing in West Texas and starting to divert more funds offshore. I know a lot of you in the room would say, well, we're not seeing it yet, but I promise you, it will come. I have a lot of faith in the future of offshore just for this reason. This is where the big reserves are. People in West Texas get on a treadmill. It's basically like a mining operation. And in order to keep up and keep their production rates up and keep their reserve numbers up, they've got to continue to just work, and drill. So I just wanted to give you guys a little glimmer of hope that there is a great future out there. One thing I will do for the I think that's it for my slides. One of the things that I like to do every year for particularly the 16 new members is give you a quick history of HeliOffshore. We actually traced the roots to HeliOffshore back to August 23rd, 2013, when there was a really bad fatal accident in Sunboro involving a 332L2 on final approach to runway 9, a localizer approach to runway 9 in Sunboro, and had multiple loss of lives. At that point, Bristow, CHC, and Bond came together and formed the JOR, the Joint Operator Review. And Duncan Trapp and Tim Rolfe sitting right there were involved. There are probably others in here that were involved. We decided that we're done competing on safety. We've had it. We're going to break the walls down. We're going to start sharing all of our intellectual property and start developing best practices, which we were not doing before. And it's hard for me to describe the kind of relationships we did not have with our competitors at that time. So we broke the walls down, and on September 10th of that year, September 11th actually, we actually formed the JOR, and the JOR, the people involved in it started working on sharing best practices within the Aberdeen community. And we decided in November of that year that we needed to make it more permanent, because people will typically go back to their day jobs the more time passes from the time of the accident. So we actually decided in November of 13 to form HeliOffshore. We didn't have the name then. Then we called it the International Offshore Helicopter Association. So PHI and ERA joined in our group. So those 5 companies were the founding members of HeliOffshore. And fast forward, Gretchen came on board in the summer of 2014, and we kicked off in October. So we're really going on our 6th year, in my view, starting our 6th year next year, HeliOffshore. And we've done some fantastic work, and hopefully over the next 2 days you'll come to appreciate more and more how the collaboration is paying off, paying big dividends for us. And as I said before, we are saving lives. And I'll just finish by reminding us that it is a sacred responsibility. We don't do this for good business. We do it because we're human beings, and we have, we care about we care about our friends and our families and the people that we're responsible for, and we need to continue to return them safe home every day. Thank you very much.
We're so lucky to have a chairman so committed to the task, and it really does help us all in dark days to draw inspiration from your sense of purpose, Bill. So thank you for all that you do as our chairman, not the least for being such a rock and such an inspiration in terms of our sacred duty for safety, the people and passengers that we carry every day. So much appreciated. Thanks, Bill. I am so excited for this year. I can't tell you. Coming here to Athens is a very wonderful thing. For me, the cradle of democracy and the home of the Olympic Games. And part of the reason that's very exciting for me is that I think the Olympic Games show you what people are capable of. And when I see this group of people in the room, I am reminded of what people are capable of. Despite challenging times, we're here. We are, and you will see in the next couple of days, achieving amazing results. And we have the opportunity now to say, where next? And really, that's our conversation while we're here. Here's where we are, so where next? What are the things that are going to make the greatest difference to safety in our industry? And we couldn't have a better group of people in the room to have that conversation. It may be that once we've had that conversation, we've gone beyond influencing ourselves. We're influenced. We think about how do we influence everyone else who's not here, who has an important role to play in assigning resources or delivering safety in the front line. So how do we take our message outside of this room to influence people where it counts to making a difference to safety? This is kind of embarrassing, but that's me. That little girl in the polka dot dress, age 10, I really dreamed of going to the Olympics. And I wanted to go so bad. I got up at 3:30 every morning. I ice skated 8 hours every day. And I didn't make it. But what I can say is I put in, I reckon, at least 20,000 hours in my childhood. So those of you that are pilots know 20,000 hours is quite a bit. And that doesn't include about 4 hours a day driving to and from the skating. And then what I found is trying to be excellent opened so many doors for me. And it taught me that I could do things I didn't imagine. I didn't believe I could do the things I did. I got to go to the World University Games, for example. And it was fantastic. But actually, one of the best things that happened was when I was that little girl in the polka dot dress, that skating competition was in Blackpool, England. For a little girl from Seattle, there was only one way to get there, and that was to get on an airplane. And I was scared to death of that. I thought, oh my goodness, flying is crazy, right? Well, from the minute I got onto the plane and we were above the clouds, I changed my mind. And I said, aviation is magic. So, you never know what's going to happen when you go for excellence. There's lots of unintended and exciting consequences. And for this conversation we had today, I really wanted us to focus on why wouldn't we be excellent where it really matters to saving lives? Why would we want to be minimum standard in the things that really help a pilot fly a mission safely, or a maintainer deliver an aircraft that's ready for service? Those are the things that we don't want to be, rock bottom. We want to be great. We don't want a gold plate. We want to be focused, laser-like in the areas that matter. And there's a huge value in that. And I think about what human beings are willing to pay for things of great value. Any of these, when you're in the presence of greatness, you are willing to pay a premium or go the extra mile because it's noticeable that it's worth having. So I believe we can communicate the value of the important things that we're doing and get people to see it. And for those of you that don't know about this very tragic case, this was a football player in the prime of his life. He was traded for $20 million to go and play football for a club in the UK. And he took an airplane that wasn't up to standard. They flew in weather the airplane wasn't really capable of flying in. And it's questionable whether the license under which they were operating was really appropriate for the flight they took. And this talented, brilliant young man paid with his life, as did the pilot. And you just think, why was he on that airplane in the first place? How could he take the cheapest possible way to get to England? What was that decision about? And there's a lot of people out there trying to make critical decisions about how they travel and how their employees travel. And we can use this story and we can use the work that we're doing to communicate the difference between cost and value. And I think about, excellence is kind of a mindset, and it affects everything you do. But, if you're really trying to focus in where it really counts, for some things, you have to be excellent just for it to work. We couldn't have achieved the things that human beings have achieved in space without being excellent at a number of things that all had to work together to be able to perform a space mission successfully. And another level of where excellence counts, and this is for Chris Smith, our gymnast in the room, is where your own personal safety is at risk. If you don't get it right, there are consequences. But I think the most sacred area for excellence is where you've got someone else's life in your hands. And that's literally what we have. The people that entrust in us to go to and from work every day in our helicopters, literally we have their lives in our hands. And that's where excellence counts the most. So, but what does that really mean for us, practically speaking, and safety? Well, I think we can learn from the people that are excellent at what they do. And I think there's a number of things, and I couldn't be happier that we've got Sir Matthew Pinsent. I just, as an aside, would have dreamed of going to the Olympics and not getting any medals, right? He went and got 4 gold medals, 4 Olympics in a row. Like, great respect, unbelievable. But look at Usain Bolt here. One of the things that I believe people that are excellent do is they focus. And what are the areas that are going to really make the greatest difference to my performance? And everybody would say in the 100 meters, the start is a critical aspect of that. And for us in safety, I think we're doing the same thing. The approach we're trying to take in our safety strategy is to look at those areas where, if we're excellent, it is going to make the greatest difference to preventing accidents. And that laser-like focus needs to continue so that we can ensure that the really critical things happen well, consistently every day out there in the real world. The other thing I've seen when I'm looking at things that are excellent is they're very good at getting faster and more efficient results. And I do think the iPhone is, love it or hate it, it's a case study in how do you get something to continuously improve quickly. And one of the things they've done is they've created a framework for collaboration. So apps, as a concept, anyone could build one. It helps foster innovation, and lots of people can put their ideas and thoughts into creating a better iPhone. So I think, what a magic idea. Apple's provided the platform, and everybody helps them succeed. And they also, I think, are pretty good at really looking at the leading indicators of how the system's being used day to day and rapidly updating and improving bug fixes. So they're on top of how are we doing and what do we need to fix, and they've got a rapid way of getting the next iteration into service. And they have a standard user interface. So that makes it easier on the people who want to use the system, so actually more things work in the same way. And you're going to hear a little bit about the FCOM steering committee that the OEMs have put together to try and make the FCOM not standard in every way, but standard where it counts to help make the user interface better for pilots. And I think that's a great example. And we've tried to do that in our safety work. The safety performance model is a framework for collaboration where lots of people could come up with the next idea of, how do we make the systems more reliable? How do we better detect and avoid obstacles? How do we better manage our flight path? All those kinds of things. And we can use the safety data program and the safety intelligence work to help us measure or judge how's it going day to day on the front line, see leading indicators of where it's not going so well or it's not consistent, and put in place action to address it faster. And I have to admit, when I was trying to prepare for this, I was thinking a lot about how do you express the value of going beyond minimum standards. And I thought about my stepdaughter goes to school every day in a commercial school bus In England, you can look at which school bus company would you use to take your child to work and most people, or to school, and most people think, well, I want one that goes at the right time, that doesn't take too long, that gets her there. And you kind of assume it's going to be safe. You want the price to be good, all those things. So I started asking her about how safe was her school bus. And we established that it met the minimum standard. It has a licensed driver and it's a licensed vehicle to be on the road. Okay, so it's basic. So I then said, well, okay, so for example, do you have seat belts? And she said, no, we don't have seat belts. And I'm like, okay, how modern is this school bus? And she says, oh, no problem, we've got phone jacks at every seat. It's a true story. So now I'm in this little influencing conversation with the local bus company about how they could improve their standards. But then she told me also that one of the buses, the day before, the engine had caught fire, and all the kids had to stand on the side of the motorway or freeway and wait while they brought in people to help them. And at the same time, that particular bus ended up blocking the motorway, and everybody trying to get to work was stopped for 3 hours. So you look at the loss of productivity through that loss of reliability, and it could have been a much worse safety outcome. But happily, it was okay from a safety point of view, but major, major disruption. And so you start to look at not having an enhanced level of performance really runs a safety risk and also really affects value and efficiency. And then finally, ICAO and everyone that works in safety has learned that you need a safety management system on top of that. You need a system that's monitoring for and looking at things that are going wrong day to day and acting quickly to correct them. And you could use the example of a school bus and making sure that if there's a pothole on the road, the other bus drivers know to avoid it, or the entire bus network of drivers knows to avoid it, or even better, that the local council fixes it so no one has the problem again and that's corrected quickly. But I tell you, the one that comes home to me the most is we'll be talking a little bit about return to base later today and the important work that's going on there. And I think about that Lion Air return to base. And I think if they'd have noticed that return to base and acted on it immediately, there's 346 people who died in 737 accidents that could be alive today. So the ability to respond quickly to leading indicators of what's going on in the day-to-day system, it's not part of the minimum standards, it's part of the SMS. And so for me, this conference is about how do we use the basic, the enhanced, and the SMS to rapidly improve in those areas that matter most. And how do we convince the people that are having to pay for that that is absolutely worth doing and actually provides greater value in the long run. And so one of the things I also looked at was, how do people overcome challenging environments? How do they succeed despite all the challenges they face? And there's actually been several scientific studies on this. And they've tried to really look at various variables, age, experience, various things. And they come out to something along the lines of grit and the ability to go for and have the guts to try something that you might fail at, that's challenging and difficult. The resilience to be able to try many different ways of achieving the outcome. The initiative to try new ideas and to try every day despite setbacks, and the tenacity to stick to it. And what I see in this room is a group of people that have grit. And boy, do we need it where we are right now with our industry. But the fact that we have it is probably the biggest characteristics that's going to help us win through despite the challenges we face. And I just wanted to say a little bit about that picture there of the rainbow. Back to my love of aviation. Believe it or not, that's my first ever helicopter flight. And I couldn't believe it. that was my view over Bermuda. And I was a passenger, thinking, oh my God, aviation's magic, and helicopters are awesome. And, I think that we are so fortunate to work in this industry. And, so we're united by that, and it feels like a family to me. And we're, I think, also very much united by our duty to get it right. This picture from last year of the West Star pilot coming home to his family, that's, for me, what inspires me to keep going and do this right. So, I wanted to set very clearly the objectives for the conference. We're here, with an outcome in mind. And so the outcome is really two things. Let's talk about the actions that we're all working on together and how we achieve how we achieve excellence in the areas that matter most to saving lives. So, let's keep going on those key actions that we're doing and really make them happen. And let's ensure that we're taking the actions to have the right resources in place to deliver lasting results in the front line. And that might mean that it's conversations we have in the room, and it might mean it's conversations we take out of the room to make sure we influence and get the right things to happen next. So day one is going to be a lot about our safety work streams. We want to give everyone a balanced understanding of where are we. There has been a lot of progress this year, the most of any year yet, and I want you to see, in the priority areas, what's happened, where are we now, where are we focusing next. We're also going to have a conversation like that about our collaboration. I think we want our collaboration to continue to improve just the way we want our projects to continue to improve. And you're all part of making that happen. So we want to hear from you how what's going well, what we should keep doing, what we need to improve, and where we should focus next. And then tomorrow, we're going to talk a lot more about the safety climate. So how do we influence the climate in which we work? How do we promote the conversation about safety value? How do we get standard in the areas where we know it would make a big difference? How do we raise standards in the areas that matter most? And how do we ensure we've got the right investment in the right places? And I think we've got some very good and inspiring talks tomorrow that I can't wait for you to hear. And then finally, we've got the AGM tomorrow, which will be an opportunity for us to vote again on, have we got our priorities in the right place? Are we spending our budget and resources where we should? And our approach will be, as ever, it's about all of us. So talking with each other about how we make this happen, being straight, being willing to face up to challenging and difficult issues, and even better, really focusing on the solutions that we can put forward in those areas, what would make the difference. Being as action-oriented as we can with making specific requests, promises, and offers to each other so we can move forward and get things done. Not just describe the world. Let's influence the world and cause things to happen as a result of these next 2 days.